Welcome to the What Up Doc University podcast, your number one resource for total body wellness. Here's your host, Dr. Mike.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Mike coming to you live again from my car, and it's another sunny day in Southern California. Surprisingly, since the last few weeks, if not months, we've been getting some rain, which is well needed, and purportedly from the news, we are no longer in a drought. Yay! But I always told them, well, I didn't tell them directly, but I always laughed when the news reporters would say, we got to conserve water, we're in a drought. And I said, well, everything goes in cycles. So if it's a drought one time, we're going to get rain another time. And now we got a lot of the rain, we got the flooding, and what do the reporters do? They complain about that. So you can't satisfy these guys. So yeah. Anyways, today what I wanted to talk about was something that I saw in the news, and it's making headlines. And it was talking about a doctor who is basically, or really made the alkaline diet and alkalinity famous. And what he was writing about, really made sense. And a lot of people bought into it. Unfortunately, he is being, I don't know if he's being thrown in jail yet, but there's litigation against him. And he may face jail time. And unfortunately, what's happening is that people are assuming that the things that he's talking about, especially the alkaline diet, is what he's being sued for. And that's totally false. He's not being sued for or telling wrong information. And again, not all the things that he's saying is 100% true. There's some information that's misconstrued, but he is being litigated against. He's being sued for practicing medicine without a license. That's the allegations against him. I don't know what's the truthfulness behind that. If he is licensed or whatever. I think he's just a PhD, but I think he owns like a ranch or something like that where people can come to and they pay him a lot of money for alternative cancer treatments. So, and from what I got from the reports was that he's being sued by one or two people that paid him thousands upon thousands of dollars to get alternative treatments and utilizing the information that he was talking about, the alkaline diet. And they're suing him because I think one of them died or something like that. And that's what's going on with that case. Unfortunately, people are assuming that what the information that he's talking about was false. And the one thing I want to point out is that we need to look at things for what they are. So when we look at the alkaline diet, and one of the big things I see a lot of people talking about and posting on social media and touting is that cancer cannot survive in an alkaline environment, which has some truth to that, So the Nobel Prize winner Otto Warburg, he's the one that basically came out and really spearheaded that idea. But the truthfulness behind that is that cancer cells are fermentative, meaning that even in the presence of oxygen, they will not use oxygen to make energy. So that process in and of itself is called fermentation. Okay, fermentation is basically happening in an anaerobic environment or the lack of air. So if a cell does not have air, it goes into a fermentation process where it burns sugar, and the output of that, the end result of burning sugar for energy will be energy in the form of ATP, but also lactic acid. And what they found, and there's a bunch of research on this, that when the cells excrete the lactic acid, it affects the metabolic rate and how the other cells function, because within the extracellular matrix, if the pH drops, so does dissolved oxygen. Okay, so let's look at that. If the pH in the extracellular matrix is dropping, meaning that it's becoming more acidic, there's less dissolved oxygen to be circulated. Okay, less oxygen to be circulated means that the cells will have to ferment for energy. So when Otto Warburg came out with the theory that cancer cells can't exist in an alkaline environment, he was basically talking about that whole process. Is if we change the pH of the extracellular matrix, then the cells won't have to go into a fermentative process. So that was the theory behind it, and that's what he discovered in the lab. Now, what a lot of people are talking about, and this is a very confusing thing, was that when you're utilizing things like an alkaline diet, you are affecting the pH of the blood. And that is a false statement in and of itself, because you can't affect the pH of the blood. Well, you can, but through the alkaline diet, it doesn't. And shifting the pH of the blood will actually cause you more detrimental things than positive things. Okay, so we need to look at the information that we're getting and really ask ourselves, is this the truth? And what's the correct physiology behind that, especially when it comes down to health? Okay. So a lot of people are throwing out the baby with the bathwater, saying, okay, well, this doctor is being thrown in jail for, and he wrote the alkaline diet, and he's basically telling people about the alkaline diet, and it didn't work on one patient, so therefore the alkaline diet doesn't work. And that couldn't be further from the truth. So what we need to do is really look at, well, what are some of the extraneous factors of why it didn't work for somebody? And there's so many different things. And this is what I tell every single patient in my office when I work with them, is that just because you may have a named disease, like your friend who may referred you into the office, your treatment regimen will not be the exact same as them, because we are dealing with a new and different body, and every single body's physiology is different. What we call biochemical individuality. It's kind of like your own physiological fingerprint, right? It may look the same, but it's not the same. And what makes us individual biochemistry and our unique physiology. So kind of getting back to the alkaline diet, there are some things that's talked about within the book that I do agree with. There are like toxicity and eating the right things. This is stuff that doesn't take rocket science to understand. But what we do need to understand is that we're not affecting the blood directly. We are affecting it indirectly. And the way you got to look at it, and this is how I explain it to patients, right? Your blood is kind of like your main checking account, okay? Your main checking account has to stay, and its balance has to stay above zero. Once you go below zero, you get massive overdrafts. And an overdraft in your body, in your main checking account, means that you are suffering an ill health. Now, the way that the body combats that is through multiple checking accounts that serve as reservoirs for the main checking account. Meaning that if your main checking account is getting to a place where it's almost overdrawn, it'll start tapping into the savings account that's been acted like reservoirs. Okay, so you have thousands upon thousands of these savings accounts. And when you are partaking of the standard American diet, you are draining your main checking account and also draining these savings accounts. So what happens when you switch to an alkaline diet, or using things like what we use in our office, a product called Alkaline, what you're doing is you are replenishing your savings accounts Okay. And so now your body doesn't have to be totally overdrawn, so that when your main checking account starts being overdrawn, it has something to fall back on and never get overdrawn. Okay. This is what we call our buffer systems. These are our backup systems that keep the body's pH balanced. Because when all of these buffer systems, when they crash, oh man, this is when your cells cannot function. This is when the extracellular matrix will become more acidic. And when the extracellular matrix becomes more acidic, what did we just say? You have less dissolved oxygen circulating. There's numerous other things that happens in an acidic extracellular matrix. Your cells just don't function properly. And this is all because your main checking account has nothing to fall back on with your savings accounts. So when we are looking at the alkaline diet or other things that, exogenous forms of alkalinity, like Alkaline, we are working on your savings accounts, not the main checking account. That's the thing that we need to understand. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out is sometimes, and this is what's happened. This is basically what happened when he got into trouble. Dr. Robert Young. Why he got into trouble is that he never made this distinction to his patients, and the major distinction is that sometimes your main checking account and your savings account aren't linked together. So you could be building your savings accounts back up, but if the checking account cannot directly tap into that, we got problems. So that's part of why you need to work directly with a healthcare professional that actually knows what they're doing, is because that main checking account, if it's not connected to those savings accounts, no matter what you're doing, it won't work, right? You could be depositing millions of dollars into those savings accounts, but if you can never tap into them and transfer them over to your main checking account, you'll still overdraw, and that'll wreak havoc. So one of the major things we focus on in our practice is making sure that the neurological circuits and physiology within the body is operating correctly. We make sure that we're connecting that main checking account to the savings accounts. And that's how we can make sure that the diets like the alkaline diet or all these other different things, that's how it works. That's how we make sure that it works. So that's all I have for you guys today. I'm almost at the office. Hopefully you guys got some great information from this. Remember, when you guys see things, especially when it's revolving around health, ask the question, what is really behind this? What's the truth of the matter? Always question everything, and then go out and find the truth of it all. This is Dr. Mike from What Up Doc University podcast. Again, if you found value in this, we'd love for you to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Subscribe and share this with your friends and family, and share this on social media. Tag us, all those things. You guys know what to do. And until the next time that we meet again, be well and aloha.